Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this presentation is entitled Airline Pilot Job Boring? No Way. Now, um, okay, my pilot career in the Air Force, 6, 7 years, you want to call that a career, depends on your definition, but my short stint career, whatever, in the Air Force was more exciting than I think it is for most people who, only put in 6+ years in the Air Force. My airline career also was more exciting than I think it is for most people, but I'll discuss those aspects in it, kind of separately. But what I want to say is that some people think it's boring and absolutely no way. Now, I found it interesting. I was doing a presentation at the Side Experimental Test Pilot Symposium. I was doing a paper, and the guy with me was a full bird colonel who had been a full bird colonel. He was now a pilot at United also. And what was kind of interesting, if I'd had a 20-year career, I'd have gotten to have a lot of fun. If they didn't want to put me in a ground job, I have video on that. If they didn't want to put me in a ground job, I would have stayed. But uh, I got out and got an airline career, and so now a guy who's a full bird colonel or even 1, 2-star generals, they're now my co-pilots because I got my seniority number earlier. But I made a joke to the symposium that I was a captain in the Air Force, and I went to the airlines, and I'm still a captain. I've been a captain for 20 years, and I really never progressed in my rank. And you could hear the Air Force guys laugh right away, but there were about 250 people in the audience. You could actually hear the laughter start to move over then to the Navy side where they got the joke. But I was surprised. Okay, Harry, who was given the presentation with me, very well known and high-ranking test pilot in the Air Force. People were coming up to him and us, more him, because he was more recent, and asking about getting a job, in the airlines. And they were test pilots, and I thought, man, you guys got the great job, and you want to talk about airline? Well, it has to do, I think, for a lot of aspects, quality of life, because quality of life is certainly there as far as an airline pilot. Now, okay, I started out as a T-37 instructor, and yeah, that's not the most exciting job. Okay, it was rewarding, but it's not your flying the F-15 or anything like that. It's a decent job, but not too exciting. But then I got a chance to go out to Edwards and be a chase pilot at the Flight Test Center. Now, there was a lot going on. It was a very busy time in the late 70s, and it was just a great time to be out there. This is a picture I took from actually the photographer in the back of my T-38. I was the one chasing it, took this picture. We did a lot of Maverick launches off the F-16. I got to fly with astronauts at NASA doing simulated shuttle approaches. Okay, the funny thing is I never thought that I would get to go out to NASA a bunch of years later, almost, 20 years later, and fly another one of their airplanes, but that's kind of a digression. That's part of the fun part I had. But I loved flying the airplanes. Okay, they weren't fighters, but they were a lot of fun to fly, and I got kind of a unique opportunity to fly them in ways that most people don't because I was involved in the flight test of the 777 coming into service. Now, another thing I enjoyed was flying in bad weather. You don't get to do this in the all-weather Air Force, at least not in flight test or in trainers. You stay away from weather unless it's kind of an accidental encounter, and that can be rather interesting, like getting into freezing rain and stuff, but I digress. Anyway, the airlines, well, freezing rain is a problem too, but in the airlines, you operate in bad weather, and it is a lot of fun. You bring an airplane in a blinding snowstorm. You land safely, get it to the gate, and people are just ecstatic. In fact, I've had people, especially in some turbulent conditions where I was landing in Houston and there was a hurricane on its way nearby, people will, as they're getting off the airplane, they'll say, I don't care how much they pay you. It's not enough. And I've heard that more than once. And, especially now, I went through a few issues at the early part of my airline career, but now it is just really a great job, pays well and everything. And right now the sun is at its maximum, and there are a lot of, aurora borealis solar flares and stuff like that, which is interesting if you're a ham radio operator like I am. But it produces a lot of the aurora. Well, going over the North Atlantic at night, you saw so much aurora. It was just boring. In fact, I've been so far north going on some trips that the auroras, the northern lights, was south of me. Yeah, northern lights are south. You're north when that happens. And, it got to be, you'd see them, every night you go. It just got to be virtually boring. People make a big deal about it now because they don't typically see them. The other thing is you get to fly into a lot of neat airports. Here's right at Honolulu. And, of course, not only is the airport kind of fun, the layover is fun, and it's fun to fly into San Diego, into Washington National. I love doing the river approach down into Washington National. That is a lot of fun, and I ended up taking Louis Farrakhan into the Million Man March. You get interesting passengers, too. That's another aspect. You get a lot of interesting passengers. And I took him in there during the Million Man March with a lot of thunderstorm activity nearby, which is interesting. And the airplanes are fun. I love flying the 727. That was just a neat airplane. You're going to go, wow, this is photoshopped. Where are the baggage carts? Where's the jetway in that? Well, actually, I picked this airplane up in Louisiana at a paint facility, so that's why there's actually nothing around it. It's kind of interesting. But the 727 is one of my favorite aircraft. And that's why I put that N number on my Great Lakes biplane. N727, and KR is my wife's initials, Chris Rogers. Now, of course, I started out in the only side-facing seat that doesn't flush on the 727. Yeah, the second officer's panel. Actually, then I got bumped to the flight engineer position, a position that actually didn't exist at the time, and thank God now it doesn't exist anymore. But I was the flight engineer in the 737. I'd done a video on that. What a disaster. But anyway, finally, seniority comes along. And I got to be in the left seat of the 777. This is part of my initial checkout. I'd done the domestic part, and I'm getting ready for my first ever flight to Frankfurt. And there's me in Frankfurt, and yeah, that's a big engine. That is definitely a big engine. In fact, I can stand in that engine, raise my hand full up, and I'm still 17 inches short of touching the top. That's a big engine, and that's not the biggest engine that the airplane ended up having, like on the later models. Now, of course, the career didn't start out the best. We had a little strike, and, some people made a decision that kind of didn't bode well for the rest of their career. I'm glad I made the right decision, but that's another video, too. But then we got this little trouble where, I didn't put my 20 years in the military because who needs that military retirement when I got this nice, lush, plush airline retirement? Yeah, thank you, attorneys. The Frontline spent 15 minutes talking about the how they United declared bankruptcy and negated our pensions. And in fact, I hadn't seen it. People were getting on my flight and apologizing to me. They saw it, and the actual attorney was actually laughing about how he screwed over all these people. Some attorneys give the 99% of the rest of them a bad name. But what I did was, I was going to go bankrupt. I looked at a lot of things. I actually looked at working at Fermilab as an electrical engineer because I had a background in I started out in nuclear physics. I had a background in high energy microwave stuff, and I also had familiar with accelerators and vacuum systems. But I decided that a little more lucrative, and they had cutbacks at Fermilab. They couldn't bring me on, unfortunately. But I said, okay, I'll get into real estate. My dad had rental properties and done quite well, so I actually closed down 3 real estate companies: Century 21 in Crystal Lake, GMAC down in Lake in the Hills, and the Remax up in Woodstock. These actually closed, but I also got into commercial real estate. I thought that'd be interesting, and it wasn't quite as interesting as I thought. But I ended up getting my managing broker's license, and I know I'm digressing here. I got my managing broker's license, and I started acquiring houses. This is the first one I acquired back in '04. I still have it. I ended up acquiring 10 houses. I still have 5 of them. I would like to get rid of the rest of them, but I have long-term renters. The guy who rents his house, I bought it in '04. It's now 2024. The guy that my first renter in there is still my renter in there. I've watched his kids grow up. I mean, if I want to sell the house and I can't find somebody who wants to take it over as a rental, which is kind of hard to do sometimes, but I would have to kick. I've got great renters. I'd have to kick them out, so I'm in a little bit of a difficult position. But I do some videos talking about my rental stuff too, if you're interested in that. But the thing I got to do, which kind of was by accident. Well, I had a flight test background from the Air Force, and I'd worked flight test at Cessna and stuff like that. So I got kind of commandeered to get on this new aircraft committee, and if you stay long enough, you can get to be in charge of it, I guess. And we just had a lot of fun. I had a lot of good people on the committee. Some of you will recognize these guys. I had a lot of good people on the committee. We had a lot of fun. I wrote a bunch of magazine articles, and maybe you've seen of them, flight evaluations on this, that, or the other thing. I'm actually getting towards the end of those. I think I got 4 or 5 to do, and I will complete all the flight evaluations that I performed as chairman of that committee. And one other thing I got to do was I was told I'm the only non Boeing test pilot that's flown both these aircraft. I've actually flown both these aircraft. The 777 was in flight test at Boeing, and the Boeing 247 there is now in the Seattle Museum, but it was flyable at one time, and I got a chance to pound the concrete a few times with it. And of course, I could kind of keep my engineering aspects going by doing a paper on the flight control systems, various design of flight control systems. I got a Aviation Week commercial airline commercial Laurels Award, and I also got Best Technical Paper of the Year of Site Experimental Test Pilots. That's what I'm receiving here, is that award for the Best Technical Paper of the Year. But the nice thing about being an airline pilot, you've got a nice lifestyle, you've got a nice income, and you can afford the toys. Well, the most important financial advice is, as one captain told me when I was a brand new second officer, he said, I'll give you the most important financial advice anybody can ever give you, and that is stay married to your first wife. That can make a real big difference between how many toys you can have. And the nice thing about being an airline pilot is you can have fun with toys. You can also do good and support the arts. We have a local theater group here called the Row. They put on shows. They bring in guest people. A lot of guest people. That's kind of fun. And if you're a donor, you get to have a picture taken with them. And also support the Elgin Symphony Orchestra there. I was on the board of directors of it at one time. And I also, you can afford a nice toy like a vet, and I was the secretary of our local vet club, so that was a lot of fun. And then the other aspects about airline pilot being fun and not boring is you can just have a good time. This is my wife. She came along with me on a layover in San Diego, and we went out to Hawaii. And of course, then we later do various trips. The nice thing about pass riding is you can go to a lot of locations quite cheaply. Actually, because we were going on cruises and that, we actually bought airline tickets. Yeah, I know, strange, but pass travel isn't what it used to be. If you got a ton of time, the airlines are full. Everybody's going everywhere. It's full. So if you got a lot of time, you can pass travel. But if you need to get there, you buy a ticket like anybody else. And you get to go see these places that have a lot of, they need a lot of work. There's a lot of broken down old things, but it's still kind of fun to look at them. And here's the thing. My high school that at one time tried to expel me, yes, and later awarded me the Outstanding Graduate Award. That's me next to the yellow there. They said, come on back and tell us about, this was career day. And so tell us about being an airline pilot. And I had a nice group that wanted to hear about that. I don't know if anybody actually went that route, but they wanted to hear about it. So I hope they buried that nun face down, because she would be rolling over in her grave if she knew that I was invited to come back. But that was a lot of fun, walking up to my old school, thinking about her and the principal and the people who tried to expel me and stuff. And there are other fun aspects too. You take a Medal of Honor winner over to Frankfurt to do a presentation. And the military charters were fun. I got to fly into a bunch of places, and it's the only time I've flown to foreign destinations that, for various reasons, we never processed through customs there, because we were at the military bases and stuff like that. So it was kind of interesting. There were other aspects. Okay, my high school has this mascot. It's a little lame. I forget what it's even called there. But they had this little contest, that, hey, if you take this little picture of this mascot and you take it to various places, whoever takes it to the most different locations, you'll get this neat award. So I thought, well, that's cool. I probably go to more destinations than anybody flying internationally, so I'll take this little lame mascot and get pictures at a bunch of different locations. So here I am in Honolulu. Now, that's Bob. Everybody who flies for at least my airline and probably other ones knows Bob, the bartender in there in Honolulu. Now, okay, I could have had the picture taken with Bob. Bob isn't terribly cute. I hate to say that, but Bob isn't cute. He knows how to make a Mai Tai, but he's not terribly cute. So I went to one of the other bars in Honolulu that we tend to frequently, and I found a much more cute bartender who would hold the reasonably lame picture there and smile. And also, I would actually get a flight crew there. I forget where we are here, but take a picture of it just in the cockpit. All right, here's Hong Kong. And Hong Kong, I don't know what the deal with Hong Kong. All roads lead to Hong Kong or something. I have no idea, but I can't read Chinese, so I have no idea what that is. But there I am in Paris too, and I had a much more of these, and they told me that there was anybody that was even close to getting the award. And you know what the reward was? Okay, wait a little drum roll here, hold your breath. It's this cheesy little shirt. Okay, so that was my reward. But the fun thing is, and this is Maui also, this is a classmate of mine that we kind of reconnected after all these years. So we'd sent Christmas cards back and forth for quite a while. But, once I started flying Hawaii, and I flew Maui, and I also flew, Honolulu quite a bit, and the Big Island, flew into Kona. So we had, the actual Hawaiian island of Hawaii. Yes. So got to fly in there, which has the volcano, which is rather interesting. But anyway, we reconnected. I was one of the co-editors on this yearbook. I did the yearbook for our flight. For our class. Our class was 60 people. It was divided into two sections. I did the editing for my section. The other guy did the editing for his section. But Maui is one of my favorite layovers. Here we are at the local health food bar, taking down appropriate, health food type of items here on the layover. And of course, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun group, and of course, you can tell that if you're single and a pilot, you can have more fun than if you're old and married. But I digress. But you get to go to neat places. Okay, here I'm in the St. Peter's there, and here's one of my crew members. We're outside waiting to get in line to go inside. And this is the Pantheon. Now, it's funny. This was back in 2014, 2015. You could just walk right into the Pantheon. You didn't need a ticket or anything. Now that, Revenge Travel has come back, I hear you actually need a timed ticket to get in. But I did some finagling to get this picture because I knew if there was any of the nuns who taught me in high school alive to see me with what looks like a halo here, they would just absolutely, it would probably cause them a heart attack and great amounts of death. So it's probably not a good thing to do. But you can also involve yourself in the local festivals. Now, here we are over in Munich during Oktoberfest. Now, the Germans are sneaky, okay? I'm part German, so I can say it. The Germans are sneaky. They have Oktoberfest in September just to confuse all the foreigners. And it's a big party. Let me tell you, it is a big party. They have these big tents, and they have many of these big tents, and they bring in horse-drawn wagons full of beer, and they have plenty of beer. It really flows. And of course, here is my first layover in Beijing, and we were there over the holidays, so we had a 4-day layover, and for $100, the 8 of us, us and the flight attendants, rented a van for the day that took us up to the Great Wall. It took us through Tiananmen Square, and he waited for us and everything like that. The person on my right down there on my left is actually my co-pilot, and she brought along her friend on the flight. And here we are at the Great Wall. And I forget that if I think I had two female co-pilots on that flight, total of three pilots altogether, co-pilots, and one of them's the friend there, and I forget which one is the pilot in the group. I think one of them's the pilot. But anyway, there we are at the Great Wall, and the thing about it, we were there in the off season, so it wasn't very crowded, but it was cold. Okay, getting away from the cold, back to Honolulu. Okay, nice fun time there. Nice long layover. We can go out and have a nice dinner, have a few drinks. And of course, I flew to Frankfurt a lot, Frankfurt and Munich. I think this is probably in Frankfurt, and crew would go out. We'd have a few beers. Oh, and this is Beijing, and I'm actually checking out a new captain on the aircraft. I was an instructor, a line check airman. They now call them line check pilots for some reason. They changed it from airmen to pilots. But anyway, the thing I got a kick out of the beers in Beijing is the glasses are smaller than the bottles, which I thought was kind of interesting. All right, here we are back in Frankfurt having a beer. And we're having Mexican food, I think, in Frankfurt. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure we were at a Mexican restaurant. And now here's the guy. If you saw Seinfeld about the when he's in first class and the huge Sundays, well, these are a little bit smaller than the Sundays that were in the Seinfeld thing about he was a firstie and stuff like that. And was it Lorraine was back in coach? But anyway, people are very health conscious, and this is why we exercise extraordinarily long times on the layovers, because we have these chocolate sundaes. You can really become a wide body captain more ways than one if you're not careful. And of course, being an LCA, I could fly in the right seat of the 777. I was never a co-pilot on it because when I was a co-pilot, the big aircraft was the DC-10, and when I became captain. Back in '91, the 777, of course, didn't. I flew it in flight test in '94, '95 year, and it came online shortly after that. So it didn't exist. But this is my second to my last trip. My chief pilot there. That I have the video on the unfortunate goat incident. Yes, he still he still stayed friends with me. We were in new hires together, and he ended up being my chief pilot at O'Hare. But he's flying the airplane out there, so I can stay over longer because otherwise I'd have come back in a day. So he was nice enough to help out, and I got a longer layover in Maui. And of course, these places can be very interesting. You go out there for a bike ride, and you have to pay close attention to the signs. And I decided this was a very good place to turn around on the bike trail. But you can have a lot of fun and actually reasonably free entertainment. We went over to one of the other hotels that had this woman who can play the ukulele. Her hands move so fast, they're a blur. She is just absolutely excellent in this. And we went over there. This is one of the things where the flight attendants help you out. Flight attendants say, hey, you got to come over there. This is really cool. So we go over there and we have a beer or two and we listen to her, and it's just amazing. Of course, the other thing is just the people you know. And this guy here, we're in Beijing. We get together kind of for breakfast. And he had been an LCA like I was. I mean, we were back LCAs on the 27 together. So we have decades of, flying together. We were the same seniority, so we didn't fly together, but we did the same job of being an LCA. But when I was a brand new 737 captain, I had we would spend a month with a co-pilot, and this young lady here was my co-pilot for a month, and we had just a fun time. The first year that you are captain is probably the most fun year in your career, and now she's a 777 captain like I was, and we met up in Maui. Okay, so you eventually become old and decrepit. At the time, the retirement age had moved up to 65. I'm pushing for found dead in the bunk, but that's a whole different issue. But anyway, they give you a free picture. You put it up in the ops for a while. People sign it, say thank you for getting out of my seat so I can finally upgrade you, old bastard. Stuff like that. So you get everybody signing it, and that's kind of fun. And then if you're lucky, you can get your final water cannon salute. This one, since I was arriving in Chicago at 4 in the morning in the dark, I elected to have actually my son set this up, also an airline pilot for United, and just checked out on the 777 as captain, by the way. Uh, but he arranged for this, and so I got a water cannon salute, and they call it a water lay out at Hawaii, and the sun got just right, so I got a rainbow, and that was on my last takeoff out of Maui, and yeah, I remember that well. That was kind of a fun, but came back in, set the parking brake, shut the APU off for the last time. And as I told my my crew, I said, if I try to come in this cockpit next week, somebody will probably try to shoot me. Anyway, that's the fun time that you can have as an airline pilot. It's fun places to go, fun airfields to fly into, fun weather to fly in and around and through, and just a fun time. A great bunch of people to work with. What do I miss? Well, I miss the paycheck. That's becoming apparent. They've gotten some good contracts, but I miss the people. The people were the fun part. Where are we going to have dinner in Rome tonight? The people were just by far the most fun part of the job. Great time, great cruise, really enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it interesting, enjoyable, informative. Thanks for watching.